Hello and welcome to Schema App's Structured Data Trailblazer. We're super excited to have you joining us today, and I'm really excited to kick us off by introducing you to Anna Petkovic, who is our Manager of Customer Success here at Schema App, and who herself is a Structured Data Trailblazer and expert, and introduce her to walk us through today's conversation. So welcome, Anna, and I'm going to hand it over to you. We can't hear you. You're going to have to start again. Let's try again with that headset.
Thank you, Martha. So yeah, I'm super excited to be doing this. I'm super excited to be joined by a wonderful group of panelists. So yeah, we're going to be talking about all things structured data and the journeys that these women have gone through as part of their journey with us and structured data, et cetera. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to start with some introductions. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do today? Havalah, you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. My name is Havalah Gholdston. I am the Senior SEO Manager for KEEN And yeah, I have a team of one now, which is a huge victory for me. So yeah, that's me.
Amazing.
I run global traffic as well as US. So all of it.
Good stuff. KEEN Footwear, great company. And Sara, what about yourself?
Hi, Sara, Kieffer-Hess. I work at Booz Hamilton. I'm an information architect, SEO strategist. I work on the corporate website. So kind of my team of me, myself, and I, right, as I think we're all familiar with.
Amazing. I see Rachel's on here. You're not on mute. Have you been able to? Oh. Okay, well, we're going to see if we're going to be able to get Rachael to join us here. We'll be checking in. But yeah, so now that we've gotten to know each other a little bit and where we are, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to understand how everyone got into SEO. You know, for my part, I kind of stumbled into SEO by chance just over 2 years ago. I met Martha at a job fair, and really the rest is history. It's been quite a journey for us since then, learning the ups and downs of SEO, structured data, rich results, all of it. So, and I mean, in 2 years, there's been so many changes and updates to it. So I'm kind of just growing and learning as I go. But yeah, that's me. Sara, what about yourself? How did you get into SEO?
There's no point in time that I can point to, where I got into it. I started off doing content development, so just inputting information, the content into a web content management system. And then as my career kind of progressed into Google Analytics and then starting to really understand the back end and that like field mapping and how everything's working in search. So it just kind of became this like tangential path into it,
I got
That's great.
Go
for it, Havalah.
I was just gonna say I got into it content writing. Actually, it was my path into SEO, which if you know how much SEO content is keying, it makes total sense. So I started as a newspaper reporter, and I didn't see a future in that. Too right, I was, and then I ended up writing content for websites in the 2006 when all the small businesses were like, oh, we all need websites, and before we had website builders. So
Yeah, I do wonder if like people journey into SEO in like so many different ways, right? Like I didn't even, I knew SEO when I was at Cisco, like because we were seeing that people were searching for things via Google versus on the website, and I owned tools around like solving your problems with Cisco tools, so like looking up bugs and so forth. But I only ended up here because my co-founder, decided to build Schema App. So it's ironic how we all get here.
So, of course, the world of SEO is huge, right? There's a lot. And one small component of that, but a very important component, at least from our view, is structured data. So if we can jump into a conversation around structured data, I'd love to understand why structured data is important to you. And if you had one word to describe why, what would it be?
This is such a hard one for one word,
Context.
but context is a great word. I love that. Yeah, I think it's context as well, just even more literal, I would say. More impressions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in a
Have you heard?
B2C. Oh, go ahead.
There's an extension of content is king and text is queen.
Indeed, indeed.
I haven't heard that one before. That's good. If we were to expand beyond just one word, what are some other reasons why structured data has been important for you in your SEO journeys?
For me, at KEENFootwear.com, it's a way for me to try to measure up to our much larger SERP competitors, where a lot of those competitors are actually my company's retail partners. So it's a very strange world, but I really need this structured data to help me stand out amongst my competitors.
We're getting some good contribution from the chat too. So if you have ideas on what your one word is, we have entity establishment. So like throw in those ones in the chat as we sort of build on why is it important? Why do we care? ROI is always my favorite word when we look at it. How do we sort of have hard measurable ways in order to show value from organic in a super measurable way, so we can just go like straight head to head with those paid people. Oh, great. We have analytics. We have ROI. This is great. Someone's asking, can we define structured data for the conversation? Who wants to define structured data for us?
I'll do it.
All right, go for it.
In your own words. Let's see it.
I kept thinking Sara was about to speak. For me, quite literally, it's our chance to tell a search engine bot what any given page is about using the language of that machine. So it's our best chance.
Snaps, love it. Love it.
It's our best chance to give the human searcher those increased trust signals with the markup that they see.
Yeah, and more visually, right? I mean, structured data equals rich results, right? And that's
so
really the
for
piece
me,
that
I always
sets us
think
apart,
of it
that
as,
allows.
It goes back to the context, right? So the search engines are looking so much for it's that bridge between being for search engines and like the robots and the humans. So having that
oh no, did we lose Sara? Oh, there's Rachael. We got Rachael in.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, this is just a big party today. It looks like there's all kind of connectivity. Anna, why don't we have Rachael introduce herself?
Hi, everyone. Apologize for the delay. Apparently, our VPN at work doesn't like this software. So anyway, I am, I was an SEO strategist for Sharp Healthcare in San Diego. And more recently, I have transitioned over to the product management team because they really view SEO as a product and how I can support really our digital footprint and grow and change that for the organization.
Awesome. Back over to you.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're just so glad that you're able to make it work, right? So that's part of what happens when things are live. It is what it is.
Yes.
But you're here and you can continue to contribute to the conversation. So,
I'm here.
We're talking about, yes, you are. We're really talking about, why structured data is important. And for me, I mean, I feel that it gives users a better experience in search, right? It also allows typically for the right users to make their way to your website, I find, right? So if the right users are making their way to your website, ultimately that allows you to grow your revenue, right? So I think Martha had said ROI, like that's really something that our clients are always talking about when it comes to the impact and the return on investment that they're seeing after implementing Schema App structured data. What about yourself? Why is structured data important to you?
I mean, it's important in a lot of ways for Sharp Healthcare. One, we've got a very complicated organization. I think healthcare in the United States is just complicated in general, and then we're complicated on top of that. And we've got a parent organization, and then all these hospitals and medical groups and doctors and locations. And to really help Google understand and tell our story and understand how everything is related has been super important. Helping our information, especially during COVID, kind of show up in rich results, or making sure that we're able to really get the content out there to our community in a timely manner and in a way that it will be seen and found. More importantly, like I feel like this has been kind of an interesting experience for our team in particular, but I feel like we have really seen structured data and schema markup drive our content strategy. And it's made us rethink really the content and the structure of our entire site. And because of that, improve it. And it's not just improving it, for our own needs, but I think it's actually improving the user experience. And it's breaking down the information and creating like better organization around the different buckets, like medical conditions and treatments, creating bulleted lists instead of these long, fluffy paragraphs that kind of go back and forth on different topics, and really create like a structured kind of strategy for our site. And so we're migrating to a new CMS here in the next year. And it's like guided us along this like this new content strategy that's even driven us to kind of like what I call a one Sharp vision. But how do we make our organization easier to understand for our community, but it also makes it easier to understand for Google. So it's just played like a tremendous part in the overall strategy of our website in general.
Awesome. I was
Go
gonna
for it,
say, like, I
Martha.
recently did a podcast where I talked about like it also like is that wow, right? So like that first interaction. So you talk about the Sharp experience, right? Or even Havalah in your piece where you're trying to like compete, right, to really stand out. It's a way to wow your user at the very beginning of their journey, whatever that search journey is or that service journey is. And I love that because it kind of applies to e-commerce, it applies to health, it applies to technology. It's about delighting that customer, right? In that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have, there's a lot of really good healthcare systems here in San Diego. We all do the same thing. We all say the same thing, and we're all good. So it's giving us a competitive edge because either they're not doing schema markup or they're executing it poorly. So having a partner that can help you and really be strategic with it has really made a difference for us.
Do you have anything to add on that, Havalah? On your side of things?
I would just agree that it has been, not only has it increased impressions overall, impressions from rich results, clicks overall, clicks from rich results, and average position. I mean, all of the metrics are improved. Yes, it does help you rank. Compared to pages that I don't have schema markup on, my schema marked up pages rank better than non-marked up pages. And I would also really echo Rachel's thought about how it is driving and underlying their content marketing. We're using it the same way at KEENFootwear.com. Just really inform us of so many specifics of how our fans are looking for us, reacting to us, wanting more from us.
Absolutely. I think when you're really thinking about structured data, when you're creating your content, when you're reworking your pages, it allows for it to have more of an impact, right? If you're just adding structured data kind of as an afterthought, right? You know, Rachel, you had said kind of like they're doing it poorly. It doesn't have as much of an impact. But if you're truly thinking about it as part of your content strategy, as part of your planning, it can have a very positive impact. And, you know, Havalah, you've given us an anecdotal experience when it comes to the improvements that you've seen. And so we know that structured data equals rich results, but we also know that it has other impacts beyond just that, right? Google can understand your pages with that structured data, and that's truly what matters.
All right, I'm going to jump in with a question from the crowd just because I think it's right on topic right here. And then I know you're trying to get to challenges and how we overcome them, Anna. But Peter's asking, he's like, doing schema is expensive, right? Like, why spend the time? So I'll, you know, as we talk about like what you describe it and the value of it, does anyone want to just chime in with a quick story there, and then we'll hand it back and jump into challenges. Welcome back, Sara.
I'm happy to jump in on that one. I mean, I think one of the exciting things is that we started to see a direct correlation to an increase in traffic and an increase in conversions on pages and templates where we implemented schema markup immediately. Like there's no question. We saw for us in healthcare, one of our main goals is to drive appointments and views of our physician profile pages. And we were seeing increases. So we have reviews on our physician profile pages. And we started seeing increases in page views and conversions on those in like the hundreds percentiles. Like it was pretty impressive, and it's really interesting to see. Like I think the data just tells the story. It was almost immediate. You can see a huge jump in our traffic. And then we also do markup on our health news stories. And for a while during COVID, we had this sore throat. Is it sore throat or COVID story that was outranking Mayo Clinic, CDC, and it was number one. Like it was a non-branded query that we were ranking number one for on Google, above some really big players in the space who I would never thought that Sharp Healthcare here in San Diego could rank one for. So I think, and that's in part by, it's good content, but it also helps to have that schema markup to kind of back it up. But the rich results that we're getting for our physician pages, the FAQs we have on our site have all really actually like tangibly increased the position of our content and also the traffic that we're getting. Very tangible.
All right, we got lots of questions coming in too, so it's gonna be a fun one. Anna, I'll hand it back to you.
Amazing, thank you. So, we've talked about structured data, we've talked about why it's important, but we've all gone kind of on our own journeys, right, with implementing structured data. So what are some of the challenges that you had to overcome on your structured data journey? And what did you reach out to help you with that? Sara, since you just joined us back, why don't you give this one a try?
Sure. Hopefully you can hear me and I'm still here.
Yes, you're good.
For me, I think the very first time I was handed structured data, and especially schema, it's just like, go to schema.org and you'll figure it out. It took a lot of really digging in and really figuring it out before I could actually start writing it. So it was almost as if I could write it before we could actually implement it. So for me, that was the biggest challenge overall with all schema markup, and that I think is just the development work on it.
I mean, it's a whole language, right? Like you're learning an entire new language.
And
it's its own. It changes all the time, right? The coding is very, very specific, right? If you put a colon in the wrong spot, everything's broken. Yeah, absolutely. Havalah, what about yourself?
Yeah, my challenges were also the concept of scale. Previous to working at KEENFootwear.com, I was working for several different agencies, and I was authoring JSON LD markup for my clients' pages, just one by one, by hand. So when I moved in-house, I had about a month to prepare, and I just knew there was no way I'm not going to get any structured data markup if I have to write it myself. And that is when I started looking for someone who could help me scale the authoring. And to find someone who could help me scale the authoring as well as the implementation and the deployment, it was just like, oh, it solved so many problems for me. Just finding Schema App on the internet. Organic.
SEO
Organically on the internet.
right.
That's good.
Right.
Rachel, how about you? What are some of the challenges you had to overcome?
To be totally honest, the web development team that doesn't really understand SEO or schema markup, and they were like, I don't know, if you want it on the site, you need to give us the code. And so I started like writing it myself, and I was like, this is going to take years. Like there's no way. We have like a 1 million page website. I don't have time for that. Our web development team doesn't understand it. And so we needed someone who could be a strategic partner, but also an implementation partner. And I mean, it's a resource thing and an understanding, and the level of detail and depth that having a strategic partner guide you through is, I think, invaluable, because there's things you can do at a high level, but then you can really get down into the nitty gritty on some of this stuff to be a little more descriptive with your markup, which I think helps a lot, that as a novice or a beginner, you're just not able to do.
When I worked in consulting, I had to do all the schema markup by hand, essentially. And it went back into mapping every data field on the back end and then telling the developers, okay,
no,
this is this, this is that. And it worked for us. But now, like, we're in my current role, it took so long for us just to get the article schema, involved, and then found Schema App, and it was like, we have to do this. It's the #1 thing in SEO. You can't succeed without it. Well, you can, but you succeed better with structured data and schema.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's a combination of all the things you all have talked about, right? So implementing markup can be highly dependent on IT resources, right? But if you don't have those resources, if they don't understand the importance, you're not going to get the things done. It can be super, super slow. And I mean, you all have been able to create some markup by hand, but is that an ideal way to spend your time? Probably not, right? There's so many other things in the SEO space that you want to be doing. So you've kind of hinted in the direction we're about to go. So my next question was just, how has Schema App helped you solve all of these problems? What are the things that your partnership with Schema App has really, helped you with becoming a structured data trailblazer?
For us, it's resources. We really were very, and still are, very resource strapped. And I didn't want to be the one to write it as well. We don't have, as many pages as a healthcare website, but I have done, previously I worked in healthcare and we had to do it there too. But it's a lot of work. And Schema App, you guys came in and just like 1 week later, it was like, oh, it's there. Great.
Agree. Resources. I actually crunched the numbers to decide and realize how much of my salary would go toward authoring Schema App, structured data for thousands of product pages, and the price for Schema App was way less.
Yeah.
And way richer of an experience as far as having, if you can afford it, a dedicated person to help you, and high touch, weekly, bi-weekly strategist / technical troubleshooter. That was amazing for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to do this right, like it's a full-time job. Like we have 20,000 employees, and I'm the one and only person who's focused on SEO. I can't spend 30, 40 hours a week figuring out schema markup and changing it and tweaking it and optimizing it. So the fact that it can be applied at a template level, and when we make changes, it's done dynamically, is invaluable. It's I mean, it's a lot less than a full-time employee in California. And I mean, but again, you also get a much richer strategic experience than you would doing it yourself. So like I said, it's been it's had multiple benefits for our team, and our content team joins our calls every other week, and so it's been a learning experience for our entire digital experience team that I think that they've gained from as well. So I think there's that.
Yeah, and if we dig into scale a little bit more, like Havalah, had you gone ahead and done product markup, right, for your product pages? Today, there's 5 reviews. Tomorrow, there's 12. So can you speak to a little bit more how dynamic your pages are and really how Schema App has been able to help you with staying on top of that?
Right, because it's templatized, my review markup, when a new review gets added to the product page, Schema App finds it and publishes it, marks it up, and serves it if it comes up in a query. So we get an amazing benefit of not having to manually add new pages or new aspects of a page you've already set a template for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a piece right around the fact of like your pages are changing, people are visiting your pages, and you want to make sure, right, that the markup that they're getting is equal to what is on the latest and greatest page that you've spent time updating, right? So lucky for us, we have the highlighter tool that enables us to do that, right? Martha, did you want us to answer any of these questions right now in the Q&A, or did you want us to jump over to you for a little bit?
Yeah, why don't I talk a little bit about Schema App, and then that part will be done, and then we can just get into some of these juicy, fun questions. And I'm going to take 5 minutes here. At Schema App, we're very sort of value driven. So if you do want to explore with us, have a call. We're going to explore the opportunities on your site and discuss that. But let me go ahead, and I'm just going to share my screen. I have been putting in a bunch of resources available to you in order to kind of learn more. We're all about sort of trying to educate about how to do schema markup, how to get it done. And, who we are at Schema App, we're an end-to-end solution that works with all websites, all content to build robust connected markup. And so we often talk about sophisticated markup, which means like we're going to talk about what the page is about, kind of playing on what Havalah was saying around like explaining exactly what it is. But then we're also going to make sure that you're getting those juicy, rich results so that you can show the ROI. And so we talk about getting results with expert support. And like I mentioned, Anna's joining us as our manager of customer success. We have a team of customer success managers who aren't just experts in our tools, but also experts in structured data. And with Schema App, we really think of this as a process. This isn't just like one and done, I'm done. I don't have to look at structured data. It really becomes part of your content strategy, part of how you think about, building content on your site. And so we start with strategy. We optimize what we can today, try to get you the rich results you can get today. We set up automated deployment. So if we're interacting with IT, we're doing it once. We're keeping it super simple. We're avoiding them, even if possible, if we can use a tag manager. And then we're going to go into maintenance. And maintenance is like, how are things performing? How do we tweak? How are you executing on content recommendations on how we want to see your content evolving to really maximize those results? And then how do we show everything with data? And, I love it when I get the chance to pitch to CEOs or to leaders, we can measure our impact. And again, sort of how the team has said, your time is valuable. We want you focused on all the many different things that you do really well and use our expertise to make this happen. And there's really 2 primary authoring tools that we have. Our Schema App Editor, which has been around since 2015, which is really great for that one-by-one page. We love this for homepage or contact page, but it's really our Schema App Highlighter that allows you to optimize a group of pages that share similar components or a similar layout and are about a topic. And really our highlighter allows you to pick elements of the page and map it, you know, and it's a visual piece, but also still do robust markup. Like, we're still the most advanced tool out there to allow you to do proper semantic, nested, sophisticated markup. And so our tool allows you to connect that. And then once you set up our integration, someone was asking about Drupal. Yes, we have an integration with Drupal, Drupal 7, 8, and 9. You know, our integrations allow us to really integrate with any website. Our Adobe Experience Manager, we're super, super excited. It's actually just going through the assessment in the Adobe Marketplace that will be launched next month. And we're constantly sort of evolving and innovating, even around our JavaScript, to make sure it has the least impact on your page, but is still providing that dynamic input. So that's Schema App. We would love to hear from you again. Even though, you know, if you're reaching out to us from a sales perspective, it's really more about sort of, you know, us figuring out with you what is the right fit and how do we add value to help you achieve your goals. You know, we're very sort of about enabling what we call your desired outcome, because that's how we're both successful together. So that's me with my sales piece. And now we can move over to Q&A. There are a lot of questions. So let me sort of jump into one of these for you. I think there was a good one, Rachel, for you as a follow-up, which is like, what are some of the type of rich results that are really working for you at Sharp Healthcare?
Yeah, and I think that's actually an interesting point. I want to emphasize that schema markup alone isn't going to like solve all your SEO problems, and you're not just going to like rank because you have schema markup. Like, at the end of the day, it's all about your content. And if you don't have content that aligns with some of the rich results that are available, then you're not going to have rich results, or you're not going to be eligible for those rich results. And just because it's there doesn't mean you're going to get it because you're just eligible. So, I mean, you have to think about what we think about from our content perspective, especially on like our target pages where we're focused on like conversions, is how can we add elements to the page that will make us eligible for rich results. So FAQs, that's a huge one, really popular. So we have FAQs on all of our health news articles. We have FAQs throughout different service lines and on our physician pages. So our FAQs, far and away, are our most successful rich result type. We're seeing a ton of traffic from those. We can see in the data that the pages that have FAQs far outperform the ones that don't. So we're looking at ways that we can expand those FAQs. And then the side benefit of that is then you're adding relevant keywords to your page. So it's kind of a win-win. You're becoming eligible for rich results and adding more keywords. Another one that has been really successful for us is the reviews, ratings and reviews. So we have reviews for all of our physicians. Again, we've seen very obvious increase in traffic to the physicians who have reviews on their pages. And then I would say the other one would be videos. We've recently actually deployed markup for all of our videos on the site, and we've seen huge increases on traffic to those pages as well. So thinking about like, how can I change this page or adjust the content to meet, to create something that is eligible for rich results. So how-to step, FAQs, videos, ratings, those are the things that are going to get you those rich results potentially. And that's how it can kind of inform your content strategy as well.
And to kind of add on to that, I think definitely what you were saying, it's not, you know, structured data and schema markup, that's not the one answer. It is just a piece of the content strategy. So it does go back to that and knowing whether or not, like, so for me with the information architecture side of the work that I do, it's all about search intent. Like, how are we finding search intent, matching that to our user, then navigating them through the site. And sometimes the search intent will change, right? Even for a single page, depending on how people are searching for it and coming in. So there's always that look of, are we matching what the user wants and how are we providing that information to the user in that search intent that they want? So.
You're on mute, Anna.
That new headset's getting her every time. I'll jump in with a question here. We have lots of good questions. Thanks everyone for the comments and questions. All right, I love this one. It's maybe one that I always have a strong opinion on, but like, can you tell us some differences between poorly done schema markup versus like best practice implementation or amazing schema markup? Who wants to kick off on that one? Anna, you want to try it? You want to give a... Still can't hear you. Yeah, you're good now.
Now?
Can we hear
Oh
me
my
now?
goodness.
Can we
I
hear
was
me
like
now?
on here, on there. Yeah, so I think really, there's some questions in the chat around like general plugins and what plugins can do and this and that. And I think, it's really easy to use a plugin and get some default markup on your website, or, doing some generic stuff, right? And saying, oh, all my pages are articles, right? But what you want to do as a strategic partner is to look at your pages and really understand what are they about, right? And look into schema.org and find really specific language that's been created to articulate to Google what those pages are for, right? So not all pages are articles, right? Rachael, you're talking about yours, you have medical conditions, right? You have physician pages, you have all this very particular stuff that a lot of the times, if you're trying to do it with a one-size-fits-all solution, you're not going to get the impact that you're looking for. And that's really what we mean when we're talking about, poorly done schema markup versus the kind of markup that we tend to try to do with our customers, right? We look at the pages one by one. We try to understand what those categories of pages are, and then we go from there, right? We start with the strategy of what are these pages trying to tell, and then we go to schema.org and we try to map it to the language that's been created. And the really great thing about, again, working with my team of customer success managers is that we're on top of all changes that come out of schema.org, right? So I think in the last couple of years, like since 2020, there have been more changes to schema.org's vocabulary than there ever were previously in the X number of years before that. So yeah, it's about really digging in and finding specific schema markup that you can use that other people out there can't do in a one-way solution. And I saw a few of you nodding your head, so maybe there's some more you can add to what I was saying here as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think one of the success managers that we worked with. So in the last year, like you mentioned, there's actually been a huge expansion specifically in the healthcare space, which has allowed us to really expand our healthcare enumeration. So what she did and worked with me on is really digging into the details of the specific medical conditions, the treatments, going through the page and talking about how can we relate these medical conditions to a schema.org type, and then how do we relate that to the treatments, and then how do we relate that to the physician, who then is like, let's say this physician works for Sharp Healthcare, is a cardiothoracic surgeon, which is related to this condition and this treatment. And then they are also associated with this location. So it's really like trying to connect all the dots across our site and all these different things, but it's getting into the weeds in terms of healthcare. And it's at a level of detail that I don't have an expertise in terms of schema.org vocabulary, and having someone who kind of understands all these new healthcare enumerations that came out and understanding it and has the time to really dig through our different pages and really create those links has been extremely valuable. So, and again, like looking at our competitors, one of them doesn't have any schema markup, and one, it's just like, this is a doctor, this is the business. And so really digging down into this is about aquablation therapy, like that helps a lot from our standpoint.
Yeah.
Sara, this is our opportunity to nerd out. Remember, we were talking about how we wanted to like find the opportunity to just like dig into the semantics. What Sara and Havalah do you have to add to that as you kind of think about proper schema markup or learning that you've had around sort of how it influences taxonomy or content strategy?
I'm trying to find something that someone hasn't said already.
I think I think one thing I really noticed in some of my conversations is like how tightly it is tied to taxonomy, which is a lot of, Rachel, what you were just talking about. And so as you start thinking not just about like, well, how do I optimize the content I have today? How is it connected to everything else? Or even like, what is the primary page that is talking about that thing? And then how do I make sure that's standing out right from the beginning of the journey? And there was a question in here, again, sort of like double clicking on content strategy. And I often talk about, that the basic thing of like you're optimizing for your user, but also for the experience in Google. And it's really about sort of both of those things. It's not just the one thing. You still have to do all that SEO work, right? For keywords and topics and so forth around what you're writing the content on. But then you also want to get it decorated.
Yeah, for me, it's all very structured, like it's all together. So when I think about content layouts, right, and that back end, the authoring experience in the CMS, and then what are those fields going to map to, and how the mapping from the fields themselves, like how that's going to go to analytics, and then how are we going to do with structured data, right, and with the schema and mapping that. So to me, like it's like when I look at a web page, I see structured data. That's how it like fits in my head. And I'm always trying to find that, especially like with analytics, right? We'll get things in and finding like, why do we have 3 dates, and what's the right date? And then it gets into the metadata, and then it takes you on that rabbit hole down to what's showing up in here, and what's this mapped to, and why is that mapped to that? And then you just keep going down and down. And I don't think that answered your question.
No, but it's an aha you have, right? Which is like, and that's why it's that circular piece, right? It's that learning, and then how do we evolve, right? And
You
that's
just
why,
map yourself backwards. I think that's where the structured data can really help, because you can look at, okay, why is it not working, right? You can use one of the testing tools and you can see, oh, it's not working. And then you look back and you're like, oh, that field, okay. And then just keep walking it back, and then you'll find the things in the code or on the CMS side of things.
Okay. Yes, amazing. So there's a question in here I'm going to put to everybody. I think Peter asked the question, are you implementing schema page by page or by page type? What is the strategy that you're using? Who wants to jump in here?
Both.
Both.
Can we give us some examples? I think, Havalah, you were talking about your product pages, right? So I think with product pages, those we're doing kind of in a group, right, in a templated or by type kind of way.
Right. We are doing it by type because we've got product details on the same page with reviews. In this case, that's multiple chances for me to get a rich result. So that is kind of how we ended up organizing that's the bulk of our markup, is reviews and product pages. We also mark up blog posts for articles, but being direct to consumer footwear, it's all about those shoes.
Yeah. Rachel, for you, I think there's probably one-off pages that you do as well, right? That maybe you tackle in a bit of a different way versus by page type. Give us an example of some of those.
Yeah, so a physician is like I call them provider pages as a page type. So they all follow the same template. I call them a content type. All our content types linked together, but it's like providers, locations, services, news. Those are all content types, and their page types and their templates, and they can be applied at scale. We do have some one-off pages, like we have a page specific about Medicare and the Medicare services that we offer, which is a huge service for us, but it's not at a template-wide level. And so that's where we go in and we've done some like individually. Recipes would be another one where like that's a page type. But then there's just some that require customization and you just to go in individually.
Yeah, I think the other thing is to, we have the option to add markup via the editor. And in those cases, it's a lot more static, right? But pages that change, that are more dynamic, the templates allow you to tackle a whole bunch of pages, whether it's hundreds or thousands or even millions for some of our clients, all at once. Which brings us to another interesting question. So we just answered a question from Peter, and he sent us another one. And it's a pretty fun one. So presenters, panelists, if you had 15,000 to spend, would you invest in Schema or building quality inbound links if you couldn't do both?
Just typing this response in the chat box. I chose structured data over backlinks in 2018, and I never looked back. But I also work for a site that does not have a history of toxic links, and KEENFootwear.com also acquires backlinks pretty naturally. So yeah, I chose it. I chose structured data and Schema App.
Same.
Yeah. Our VP and I felt the same way, and we prioritize structured data over backlinks. Now we are actually doing both. And I have to be honest, I know backlinks are very important. High quality backlinks are a huge part of our SEO strategy, but we're having a little bit of a hard time seeing the direct impact that it's having. It's a little bit, I feel like it's a little more cloudy. Like, oh, okay, yeah, here's like, we're seeing like a slight increase in some keywords maybe here and there, but it's fluctuating. Where I feel like, every month and every quarter, I've got very tangible data that I can take back to our executives and show that that the schema markup has resulted in X, Y, and Z on these pages. So it's just a little bit more of a tangible result for me, and I like that. So it was a priority, and I would choose that over backlinks.
I like that. I'm a super data-driven person. So for me, what I like about structured data is that I can very easily tell you adding structured data equals an FAQ-rich result, which equals that impression and that click that you get, right? Because Google only measures an impression if someone physically clicks on a question and expands it. So if you're looking at an FAQ impression, it is literally from structured data, right? If you get a click, it is from someone who clicked on your page after expanding that. So it's so easy to go, this equals this, that you're right. There's no cloudiness, there's no gray area. And I think that that's great. It's how I function. So I like that.
Me too.
Okay, I have another question on here, and maybe it'll take you back to when you had started off. What are some tips that you have on finding schema opportunities? So when you were starting out your journey, you were wanting to add structured data. Where did you start?
So one thing that I looked at was kind of going back to the content strategy, right? So looking at what's our priority, what are we trying to achieve, which page types, and then kind of digging into what's available in Schema. So are we doing okay in search already? Are there, are rich snippets or featured snippets even available for certain search terms and things like that, and kind of comparing that and then deciding which one to kind of go for. What I do like about Schema App is that I can go in and play around. So if I'm not sure if I want to commit to a certain type of markup, I can either ask my account manager to try this out on this page and show me how it works and things like that. Or I can actually go in and then I can get my full geek out, and go in and map things up and see how everything is actually working all together. But it's prioritization. What are you trying to achieve? What's that? It's the ROI, the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah, I would echo that, and also say that my account manager gave me the biggest tip ever when I started, and he was telling me that I could mark up for reviews and products on the same page. I would never have thought that was a viable strategy, but it totally is. So I really look to, I'm.
Oh, we lost her.
Yeah.
There you go, you're
Yeah.
back.
And I'm back. Anyway,
We missed that last
Yeah.
piece.
the stream of thought
Yeah.
is gone.
Yeah, so,
I think
going back to that, that's great. Like when you get into Schema and you're like, well, is it an FAQ page? It just has FAQs on it, but do I want it to be this type of page instead? And that's where it's been really great to learn more from our account manager and things like that, to take it that next level where you don't quite know if you can combine things.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's really the win, right? There's certain rich results that you can combine and get to show up together. There's certain that you can't. And our team of customer success managers has that experience. They can tell you what types of pages will work and what type of pages it won't work on, right? And I think part of it too, like I love that you brought up, Sara, that you can experiment. Right? You can go into the tool and in 5 minutes create markup for a particular URL and just ship it, and it'll be live on the page in minutes. And if you don't like it, if you don't like the impacts that you're getting from it, you can go in and change a type, right? And so you don't have to wait for a developer. You don't have to open an issue and then wait for someone to insert it directly into the page and everything else that comes with it. So I like that you highlighted that. There was another question that I did see in the chat around reliable tools to check if your competitor has well-structured data on their sites. We actually have an analyzer tool. I don't know, has anyone here used that? Havalah, Sara, Rachel? Havalah, you have?
I demoed it, but I don't use it regularly.
Yeah, so it's a tool where you can actually input any website of any kind, and it'll give you a report that spits out exactly what kinds of structured data types they have on their website, errors and warnings associated with it, etc. So it is lesser known, but it exists, and we use it when we do competitive analyses for our own customers. And I don't know, potentially one of your customer success managers has actually done a competitive analysis for you. Maybe Rachel, for you, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't used it because you guys just do such a great job that they like taken over for me, and I just rely it's just like an extension of our team. So it just makes my job so much easier. But yes, we've asked and we've had them do the competitive analysis for us, and that's where we've identified gaps in the market. So where we have opportunities to stand out from our competitors with specific templates and services. So it's been really helpful.
Okay, I want to ask a fun question. We talked about FAQs. We said that FAQs are, the low-hanging fruit. They're the easiest kind of rich results to obtain. But what's your favorite rich result that you've been able to get on your website?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite because it was like a really stressful time, but I feel like this special announcement for COVID, to see that live in the wild was kind of cool. And to know that it was impacting and helping our community in a time of high stress and need was fun. And I know Google's gone up and down with using it, but so mixed feelings on that one, but it was kind of a harder one for us to get.
So, question, and maybe this was answered when I fell off, but did you use the COVID-19 schema markup for those pages? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and because it literally, the content on those pages still kind of to this day changes daily. So we're just constantly updating that date and the information, and so yeah.
You want to give us?
Yeah, we have funny ones coming through about. We did a blog post. Most of our blog is expert advice, tips, ways to use KEEN Footwear, camping, what have you. But yeah, we got a funny one. We did an article about taking your dog to Antelope Island, which is a park in Utah. But now we get impressions for queries that say, "Are dogs allowed at Antelope Park?" Which is really funny that people are getting that information from our blog posts. It just makes me laugh.
No, that's amazing. I love it. We only have a few minutes left. If anyone has any additional questions, let's pop them into the chat here. I know Martha's been doing a great job of getting in there and answering them. For me, I did want to touch on the special announcement. It was something, again, where special announcement didn't exist, right? COVID happened and Google came out with special announcement. And yes, I think you touched on it being a stressful time, but from the moment that Google gave us those required and recommended properties and told us what was needed to, identifying the page on your website that you created that it could work for, to our wonderful customer success manager, Jasmine, going in and creating that markup, and then you getting that, like, those are things that didn't take months, right? Those were quick things that we worked together. We took the news that was given. And I think that, like you mentioned, being an extension of your team, we all worked together and took the information and got the rich result, right? So
yeah, it's pretty cool how it can, for the most part, like you can do stuff and see the impacts of it, not in real time, but in near real time.
Yeah. Well, we got to let Google index the pages, right?
True. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, in a time like COVID for a large healthcare system, like that was just instrumental for us. And having a partner who could help, because I didn't have time. Like I was scrambling to get a million other things figured out and done and open and closed and all over the place. So it was really, really helpful.
All right. I think we're there. I just want to make sure I just say a huge thank you, because these structured data trailblazers inspire us, as well as we hope we inspire them to try to do new things with structured data, teach them something new. And I just want to say a big, big thank you. So thank you, Havalah, Sara, Rachael, and Anna, who you'll be seeing more of as she partners with me for more of these webinars as one of our in-house structured data experts and leaders. So big, big thank you. We really, really appreciate you. And thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thank you guys so much.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye.